Honk honk.
Honk, honk.
Yeah. Thank you for saving us.
It never hurts to help.
I know.
Oh,
I
no.
so I messaged I messaged Kahil. I'd love it if we could like institute a policy of like before a Zoom meeting gets put into a meeting, it has to get tested with an anonymous account before.
I think the moderator open is the default setting. I don't know that anyone's changed that.
Right, but it's this is the second time I've run into this issue with this meeting group, this working group. So I'm
This
confused.
is like the 100th time I've run into it over the last 3 years.
Oh, load, yeah. Okay, so this, yeah. I actually I had a conversation with Ankar about meeting chaos and meeting problems as when he joined. So it's on his radar. This is not this particular issue is not on his radar, but meetings in general being kind of a pain to run from the organizer's perspective is something that he's aware of. So
Yeah, and typically I have the back door in, but today they two-factored me.
That's fun. So if you use did you burn a code to get in?
I had to use a burner phone, man. They're on to me.
Well, yeah. You do not feel obligated to hang out, but if you'd like to hang out, love to have you.
I was going to anyway.
Perfect.
I was just doing laundry and I ran down when I saw your text.
Perfect. I appreciate it. So I guess let's just forge on. I don't know if we, since we're working on a document, I don't know if we need meeting notes. I don't know. Crow, do you care?
If there's any decisions,
Yeah.
we should write those down. Or any kind of action items, we should do that. But I think you're fine if we're just editing, just to
Perfect.
forego it for that piece.
Yeah. So Josh, you and Crow have not seen this. This is, well, Crow, you've seen a form of this, but not the most up-to-date version of this. This is so let me link the document in the chat so everybody can find it real fast. Chat thing. There we go. All right, so meeting chat. And there's also this copy link.
Yay, lucid chart.
So at a high level, this describes the flow for how we would do PVR. So can I zoom in? Okay, yeah. Why does this look weird? Well, there's two of them on there. No wonder it looks weird. Okay. So to refresh everybody, Yodam, you and I worked on this together, but Josh, you were not here in the last one, and neither were Crow. So let's start at the beginning and let's just go through what we have for this flow. So our proposed flow as it stands is that we would start here at if the repository host supports PMPVR, right? Which is PVR stands for private means of private vulnerability reporting. No, sorry, pragmatic means of private vulnerability reporting. So pragmatic meaning like a programmatic. Or I guess programmatic is a better term than pragmatic, but programmatic means of private vulnerability reporting. If they do support that, then if the repository itself has PMPVR enabled, then you just generate the pull request. If it's not, then if you check to see if the repository has issues enabled. Now, some organizations and repositories do not have issues enabled. And so only if we have them enabled, then we check to see if there's been an existing issue requesting, I spelled requesting wrong, requesting that PMPVR be enabled. If there is not an existing issue requesting PMPVR be enabled, then we create the issue. Otherwise, you use the existing issue and we use the existing issue for later steps in this flow. Regardless, so if they don't have an issue created, then you if you don't have an issue created, then you request you open an issue saying, hey, please open PMPVR. This is the flow we're going to use, yada yada yada. If they enable PMPVR, then you create the private pull request via PMPVR. If they don't, or if the issue is closed or you don't get no response, right? They close or delete it without a response, then you jump immediately to creating a public pull request. If they respond with we can't or won't enable PMPVR, then you follow this flow down here, which we haven't discussed yet. Or if the issue has been open for at least 35 days. If any of those three are the case, so for this flow, this loops around until one of these cases is true. And at that point, for these two, they can't open PMPVR or the issue's been open for at least 35 days. We look for an email to send an email via the disclose check that Michael Scavetta wrote. And then from there, we send automated emails with the vulnerability details and patch file. If all the emails bounce, then you just create a public pull request. If it doesn't bounce, then you wait 90 days. And then if the vulnerability is fixed, if it's not, then you create a public pull request. Otherwise, you're done. Did I lose anybody anywhere there?
So I'm just looking through this last stage of the process, and I'm not seeing. So let's say
this one.
Yeah. So you send the patch files and vuln details. Wait 90 days. Not fixed. Oh, okay. Create a public pull request. Never mind. I missed the part where if the vulnerability doesn't get fixed, you just create a public PR, because I was thinking what was missing is informing the public that, hey, this thing is a thing and hasn't been fixed yet. But that would cover it. So seems sane.
Probe.
Sorry,
You're part of the
I'm
diagram.
multitasking about something else.
No, yeah, I know. I just figured I'd ask the person who's part of the diagrammer society.
What's that?
I'd ask as the reason that I'm paying, was like, as the programmers or as the diagrammer society, do you have an opinion on
that dot?
Yeah.
I hate that dot. It should be an
Hate
oval.
that dot.
In the parlance of workflows, the both beginning and end start in a little kind of squared oval thing.
Really? I thought
Really?
I thought this is
the third icon on the top under flowchart.
This is the UML start and the UML end.
And not ULM.
UML
flowchart. Next to the diamond. That
Terminator.
That's the beginning and end. Out of the thousands of workflows that I have either made or looked at, that is how it is done. Now, UML is a little different. So if you're talking to an enterprise architect, they'll maybe argue.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it's not super clear that creating the public pull request is a terminator.
It's it describes, so this box means process defined in another document or another flow. So it's basically a reference to another process that we haven't defined yet.
Gotcha.
I want to make this is 3x 3 and this and this. I want to do 2. Oh, they're all 3. So this is the high level flow. Does anybody have any disagreements about the flow or the proposed ideas in it encoded, and like, in particular, like this is there's like, I mean, you can run this as fast as you want, right? Like you can run this like minute by minute, but like I think this is, this could theoretically run like once a day or whatever, I don't care. But at least it gives you the opportunity, like there's no like waiting. It's like you can just cycle this. And then as long as this comes out at 35 days, you can go down here. The do we want, I don't really want to do email monitoring or require email monitoring in here. Like I think that waiting 90 days is perfectly fine. Right?
What do you mean by email monitoring?
Like wait, like we're doing some logic based upon the response to the email.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds reasonable. So
So this I guess the high level question that we have here is there anything that anybody you think will fight us on or like complain about if we try to move, like let's assume that we move forward with this flow, we write it down into the policy. My intention was we'd leave this flow in the policy document as a visual description of the flow. Do you see any points in here where people will be like, I mean, this is the one that I could see potential conflict with. Like if somebody closes the issue without response, right? They either close the issue or delete the issue without response. That immediately triggers a public pull request. Does that seem reasonable?
So the two things that I'm seeing that aren't covered, that does seem reasonable to me. One is there isn't any mention of the like critical project stuff we talked about, which I don't know if we want that in here or not, but that's one thing that I noticed. And then the other thing is the vuln IDs. That isn't mentioned at all in any part of this, which might be fine. But that's another spot that I noticed isn't in there.
I don't think so. I'm wondering whether or not we want to require vulnerability ID assignment as a part of anybody implementing this flow. I think that the OpenSSF, I think that the Alpha Omega project will maybe involve the GSD database, right? But I don't know if we want to make that a requirement.
I would strongly encourage it, just so that downstream customers have that common identifier they can all refer to, whether it's GSD, OSV, CVE.
Yeah, whatever we use. The one spot that I would kind of push back there would be if we're making the public pull request, that's kind of we're pulling the parachute scenario, right? Where, hey, the public should be aware of this. And I think that's where having an ID, no matter which database it's in, would help downstream consumers because, hey, now this shows up in your scanners. Hey, there's something going on here.
Yes. Okay, I think that would be part of this, just like whatever this flow is, right? Because again, this is referencing another document or another process, right? So I think that would be part of here and part of here.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense.
So I don't think this document needs to include that information.
Well,
but I
it
think,
seems so.
yeah.
So this box here, Jonathan,
Yes.
you don't have any further actions or termination.
Yeah, it's a predefined process that references. Do you want a termination?
Yeah, it needs to go somewhere. Otherwise, you're stuck in a loop forever.
Really? I thought that a
Just ends
predefined
there.
process can be the end.
Not according to how I've practiced. So you would have I would put a little box down here and say end, or even refer to a diamond or whatever down here. UML is a little different than like a flow chart, right?
Yeah, the thing that I'm thinking here is that, okay, we could do that. The only reason that I'm thinking, so the flow, you follow that flow and then the flow would end. Okay,
Right.
so then, okay.
If that's the end of it.
I
Otherwise,
think
but just because there's a private pull request doesn't mean anything happens.
well, right, so the private pull request has its own flow, that it has its own terminator. But
Okay.
you're saying that process can have its own terminator as well.
Yeah, or if you had another diagram, you would reference there's an off page.
Isn't that what this is? This is an off page.
Is there ever a scenario where the private pull request would end up over at the public pull request?
Yeah, they don't fix it in time. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that yes, a
Home
private pull request can turn into a public pull request if they don't, like, if they have PMPVR enabled, but they don't like respond within 35 days affirming, or they don't fix it within 90 days. Hi, Michael, you have not seen, this is the first time you're seeing this document, right?
I've seen previous incantations of this, but
Okay, I'll send you the link again. You can
Cool.
review it in.
thank you.
But yeah, so if you have the other workflow, you could drop home plate down there and hyper snooch over to it.
Oh, off page link. Oh,
Then you would you would put your URL there, but you title it, private pull request process.
whatever.
Whatever.
Let's do that. Hang on one second. Let me delete you. Go away. Okay. So this is the what is the name of this document? This is the campaign. This is the rename. Report vulnerability. Whoa. Create another document. Create private. Create fire vulnerability, or create report via PMPR. Okay.
Ah,
Can I change the text?
it's been a while since I've used Lucid. I would undo. Because you lost your original box.
What? What? It's fine.
Okay.
I just need to put a title on it. There we go.
And then I had a second question.
Go for it.
So if you're following your workflow and the repo doesn't have private reporting, there are issues. So that's your first escalation. Your second escalation is you're checking with the mail list, and that's it. After that, that's it. You're going full out. There's no other escalation or other checks.
This is intended to be a fully automated process.
Yeah.
That has no humans in the loop mostly, right? Like the goal is to try to avoid humans. Now, there was the discussion that Michael Scovetta had that we could theoretically as AO engage with Brian, or Michael, you wanted to maybe
And-
work with,
An outside organization. We would pay them money in exchange to do this like yucky work of responding back and forth emails and kind of the last mile reporting.
right?
Or even checking like with Cert CC or somebody that they might have a contact from
Well,
history.
So here's the thing. And I don't mean to hijack that because it is on point. That OSSF disclosure check is not just finding emails. It is coming out with an ordered list,
Right.
Of including Cert CC and GitHub Security Lab, SNCC,
Okay.
Tidelift, and whatnot. So every project will have at least 3 options, which is Cert CC, GitHub Security Lab, and SNCC.
Okay.
They all have a public, like, give us your bugs repository. So, give us your bugs, like, link.
Email, you mean? Well, so the idea is this is only going to happen via email, right? We're not going to try to do form filling out. We're not going to try to do JIRA issues. Rationale being like, for example, right? The Jenkins team has a JIRA instance, right? The Apache Software Foundation has their own JIRA instance. We don't want to expect either us or other campaign operators to have to go automate the account creation process for every single JIRA instance that happens to be running, that somebody happens to be running, because everyone's going to have their own OAuth flow. Their own, like, that's a whole pain in that we email is the line in the sand of like, we'll try to do PMPVR. If PMPVR doesn't work, email.
So I agree that it shouldn't, that I don't think it's reasonable to include arbitrary JIRA instances. So CertCC is you need a Vince account.
CertCC doesn't want this. Like, I don't think that CertCC wants this sort of like spam. Like,
I mean, well, no, so as the lowest one on the list. So the idea would be that you would, that I don't, option A would be you have your list of 7 potential contacts, you take all the email ones, you blast out an email, you wait, and if they, at some point you decide to go to the fallback ones, which is CertCC and GitHub Security Level, one of those. Another one would be you start at the top and you try the top and no response, you go to the next, go to the next, go to the next, with the idea that the ones closer to the top are more likely to be the right ones.
but all that goes via email, right? The emails are the ones we care about, right?
I'm trying to look. So like the SNCC one, it looks like just a web page. So you could
Yes.
automate.
They have a web page, but I mean, we could ask them to create an API or let us use that via automation.
Yeah, and that should be easy, even if we have to like script a headless browser thing. And then Security Lab is just GitHub, is just Security Lab at github.com.
So Security Lab doesn't handle vulnerability reports for maintaining, like they do their own research. They don't handle coordination for incoming reports.
I'm pretty sure they do.
They handle certain things in special cases. They handle things like, for example, someone comes to them from CERT and says, hey, this vulnerability is everywhere, help us out. Or like they don't do disclosures for you. That's just not their shtick.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that I saw that, although I could have just completely
SNCC does. Oops, sorry, I've violated the, I'm breaking the internet by hitting F12 accidentally.
You've also broken the law.
Yeah, I know. So Probe, yes, the original intention of this document, to answer your original question, was yes, that the line in the sand was email for automation, right? If you know, we try PMPVR, we give that a shot. We give email a shot. If email doesn't work, we're not gonna like. It's unreasonable to try to report via HackerOne through automation or BugCrowd or all these different channels, right? Like,
What if the project uses Bugzilla or Jira?
we try to find an email to send the report to in the maintainer using Michael Scavetta's tool that he wrote to find a disclosure channel via email. So if they use Bugzilla or they use one of those other things, as long as we can track down an email for it, we'll use it to send the report.
No, I understand your logic. It's just there are so many different variations. I don't know if we've accounted or could ever account for all of it.
Right, and that's the big thing, right? Through automation, right? When you're dealing with a vulnerability, the scale of tens, hundreds, or thousands, well, tens maybe not, hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands, right? Trying to support all of the various different disclosure mechanisms that each one of these vendors has is from a
And
yeah.
roll that back a little bit, Jonathan. Most of these projects are not vendors. They're individual contributor maintainers, you know, one man or one woman show.
Right. And so that, I mean, PMPVR will support most of those cases, hopefully. Right. And most of the people that are running Bugzilla instances or Jira instances are not one-man shows.
No. But they could be part of affiliated with a foundation that might not have a security team. There's a lot of different permutations. Right. I just want to be sensitive to them and not have you get blackballed the first day you roll this out.
No. I mean, hey, I've been
to avoid pitchforks and torches.
I mean, I've been using bulk pull request generation, and you know, the only people that have gotten pissed at me is the Open Source Security Foundation. Michael, you asked for the issue closed, deleted without response. Shouldn't it go to the disclose check? So this only happens if the issue gets closed or deleted without a response, right? So if you say, hey, please open PMPVR, we have a vulnerability report for you, we want to work with you, you know, help us out, you know, if you can't, yada, 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 like, that's fine. And if they just ghost you completely, they close the issue, right?
To differentiate between that one and the one below it, though, if they close the issue or they say no and close the issue, like,
they've actually responded in the latter case.
Yeah, but I mean, it feels like it's going right from there to public pull requests.
We could put that in the message, like, hey, if you just close this issue without a response, we will just open a pull request.
But why not just? What's the downside of just routing it to the disclosure check? Those cases,
because it shows a level of hostility towards the process that they just don't want to engage.
You're not obligated to engage. Like,
they're not obligated to engage, and we're not obligated to report vulnerabilities to them, and we're not obligated to report vulnerabilities to them privately. I mean, we want to.
No, we are, though. We're obligated to report to. We're obligated to give best effort to reporting it privately. You're right. We're not.
Alpha Omega is, sure. I mean, maybe Alpha Omega is. Yeah. I mean, sure. I think that to be clear, Alpha Omega can always do better than this process. But like, this process is a baseline for, you know, minimum to achieve.
Yeah, but I would still say, like, either of those cases, like, you don't lose very much by routing those last two diamonds over to disclosure check and then just routing it that way, because then they, you know, it also avoids things where, like, oh, I didn't understand this, I closed it by accident, my co-maintainers, you know, they closed it and they didn't know what they were doing, sorry, like, but now you've you know, released the 0 day. Whereas if you route it to disclosure check, then you always have that 90-day buffer where it's defensible that you made every best effort to report it, and you waited 90 days and then disclosed. Like,
so Jonathan was mentioning the other day when we were working is that he has seen that that vulnerabilities like reports are like closed without any response. Typically, like he has seen that in when he was reporting to like non-US speaking countries when maybe they don't understand, etc. But I see the point, and I think like I also second what you were saying is which is like it just adds another 90-day buffer. I guess like what Jonathan and we also seconded this thing last week or the week before. Yeah, not last week, the week before. Which was like going to the vulnerability report as soon as we can, or like so the pull request, like instead of waiting 90 days, it just expedites the whole thing. But in the big picture, I think maybe expedition is not necessary, and rather than like following a process which is more favorable for the maintainers all the time is a better alternative.
I mean, the question.
I think you also, Jonathan, you also like kind of when you asked us what do we see as kind of a point where we can get like pushback, you flagged this point as well. So this kind of can remediate that kind of sentiment.
Here's an example. Take a look at that.
If you close it, it doesn't exist.
Right. So like, and they no, I spoke to George. I can't remember how to say. I don't think that's how you say his name. But he said they never got an email. They never got a response. They never got no. There was no further communication from them. They just got a closed issue. Like, how do you handle that?
so for that one, I would GHSA it. I would public pull request it, and
Here's the second one.
I'm not saying that these things don't occur, like, and clearly after 90 days, like the way that I see it is like before 90 days, these things are it's dangerous to push too fast. After 90 days, it's all public, full disclosure, go for it. So my suggestion here might, I think, what if you did so exist? So wait, let me move my mouse in the right window so you can see it. So
yeah, okay, go ahead.
So if you start here, issue exists, or repository issue. I guess somewhere in here, somewhere in these three, you in parallel do this thing that do the disclosure check. So you open up an issue, say, hey, we found a report. We're going to send it to you privately. For the future, please open up private vulnerability reporting so we don't have to do this weird dance thing for the next time. And that way, it doesn't actually matter how long, if they enable it, how long it takes them, whether they close the issue or open the issue. It doesn't matter because you've already, the clock is like immediately starts, which actually means that there's no delay between that initial start condition and running disclosure check, sending the vulnerability, or opening up a private vulnerability report. So 90 days starts like essentially immediately at that point. And you actually don't need the 35-day cutoff at all. Does that make sense?
So
the first issue for a repository that does not have vulnerability reporting enabled will only get the details via the the disclosure check methods.
So
first-
I was, okay, that was a thought process that I had earlier, was like some sort of caching mechanism such that like, you know, you reuse the least, you know, the whatever flow you flowed down before, hopefully you can reuse it again. So like, for example, PMPVR is enabled, just use that. But like, it was not enabled. This is where this came in, right? This existing issue is requesting PMPVR wasn't like, so let's say you had two different issues, right? You've already requested PMPVR to be enabled. This flow is cached, right? So, or like if you requested it beyond 35 days, right? This flow would still go this way, right? Like you're so you're just saying move this up into, like, if they don't have PMPVR enabled, you in parallel, you do this in parallel, you also send the report via this disclose check.
Yeah. So it's actually even simpler than that. So start, run disclosure check. Is PMPVR enabled? Yes, send it that way. Else, send it that way and open an issue asking for PVR to be enabled. And then you're done. You still have to, at some point, that wait 90 days, I don't know how to automate that, because like, what's the signal back that a thing has been fixed? But you have that problem anyway with anything that doesn't go through PVR. So it doesn't make it worse, but it does make it better. But at that point, then 90 days after that initial action, 90 days has passed and public disclosure is fine if it hasn't been fixed. Or public disclosure is fine, period.
I mean, yeah. Do we so originally this idea floated, so okay, coming from wrong one. All right. So from this is the policy that was approved by the TAC.
Mhm.
We expect maintainers to respond within 21 days of the notice date to let us know the issue is being mitigated to protect impacted end users. If we do not receive engagement from maintainers within 35 days of the notice date that affirms their intention to fix this vulnerability within the time limit, we reserve the right to fully publicly disclose the vulnerability at that point. So the policy that we have is actually 35 days if they don't respond at all. Do we want, for both of these, right? If we don't receive either an issue response or an email response within 35 days, that we go the public disclosure route. But we give, if they respond at least to the email saying yes, like we're going to, or like they don't have to, like they just have to respond to the email, right? We have to confirm the email's been responded to, or the issue is responded to. If either of those two cases are true, we give them the full 90 days. But you're saying, so okay, so then okay, so I hear what you're saying. How much time do I have? 6 minutes before I have an interview with somebody else. But you're proposing that we go, nope, this still remains. This is deleted, and then off of here we do this in parallel.
You know, if it would be helpful, I'm happy I'm happy to just to sketch out what's in my brain, because I don't think I described it well.
Well, is it? Hang on, this parallel. What's the parallel thing?
So, suggestion for next time, Jonathan,
Yeah.
make a copy of the tab. That way you don't lose your work before you start deleting stuff.
Fair. I can do that.
You've done this before.
Right. And do your edits on the copy.
I'm out of free shapes for this document.
Oh, too many shapes, man.
Like an EA game.
Your complex, your process is too complex.
Hey, boss, can I pay for Lucid Chart?
That's gonna be like $8 a month, man. That's gonna break your
$8?
budget.
Yes.
Thank you. Of course. Do we need to get votes from the other bosses?
Ask Brian. Tell him I said it was okay. gives you a problem.
All right, I will.
But that's a nice threshold setting from the Lucid chart team for the.
I know, it's very,
So you feel the pain.
yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
fancy
like you
to
get
the
enough
chart.
shapes just to like,
Uh,
get that fix, and then, yeah.
And then in the chat, Jonathan, I gave you 2 suggestions, not about the diagram itself.
Yeah, Art, yes. So Art's always somebody that I ping, but he's not, yeah.
Right. I have him look at this just because he's done this a billion times, and he might say, oh, you forgot about this or that, or what about this scenario? So he'll give you some good feedback in addition.
Yeah.
And then consider reaching out to the OSS security folks as a last step when you're going public. Ask them if they would be okay if you said the vulnerability Autofix project found blah vulnerabilities in these projects, and we're notifying this list, because there are a substantial amount of people that monitor that, just so they might not be watching it. Most customers don't watch a GitHub individually for commits.
Mm.
Yep.
Just to have that wider net of people potentially seeing it.
Yeah.
So for things like that,
But ask him first, because he's a little cranky.
if things like that should be in the disclosure check, like fallbacks, like
Yeah, they're not like that's just they're purely a disclosure channel. They don't. There's another list for coordinating that you're not invited to, but there's a public list that you could say on this date this thing is public.
oh, I am planning to. Oh, that would be okay. So like a advance notice warning.
There is that, but I don't know that this would qualify for that. But I'm just saying that the OSS security list on this day, this project, our scanning project found this vulnerability in these projects, and we're notifying this list so that downstream can see that, because more people will watch that than they would potentially monitor an individual GitHub or GitLab repo.
Right.
But ask him first.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, who are we asking again?
Solar Designer.
Who is Solar Designer? Can you just
Shut the front door. You don't know who Solar Designer is?
Nope.
Solar Designer runs the open wall lists that all of traditional Linux use for their pre and public disclosure.
Oh, this is there was that whole thing that we were trying to figure out how to, there was a discussion about this from AO, right, Michael?
No, a completely different topic around Solar Designer.
Yeah,
same person, 2 different very parallel things.
But those lists are very widely used, and I would suggest, hey, we're all done. We found a thing. Downstream, be aware, because we couldn't reach the maintainer or whatever.
Right. What is the like diagramming equivalent of a hey, run these 2 things in parallel?
I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
Pedantic about the start and the end, can't remember how to run 2 parallel tasks at the same time.
You just put a little text on it that says these 2 things run in parallel.
Yeah, or you have a little bubble afterwards saying that we did this one thing and now we're doing something else before you move on to the next diamond, the next decision.
There's a merge. Is there maybe I can use a merge in reverse?
Whoa.
I know. I don't know if I can get the text to rotate though.
In UML, you have like the fork and join that you can use.
Where do you see a fork somewhere in here?
I think it's in the UML state activity, and then there's this like solid, like that one, yeah.
This one?
No, not the object. There's the solid like dash sign.
What? Solid.
I think the black one.
Yeah, the black one, yes.
This one.
Yeah, that's the fork join, yes.
Oh, all right.
Just Jonathan, we're at time. So you said you had an interview. So
I do. Oh yeah, we are at time. All right.
I hope
so
you get the job, man. Don't tell Michael.
Mentees. Yeah, I know. All right, let's chew on this next week. Just to remind everybody, we're doing this meeting every week. Just bi-weekly was not enough. All right, cool.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Will.
Thank you all. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Now.
Bye.